What's up, all my dwarves and dwarvettes? Today we're going to be talking about the best starting class in the game. And no, I will not argue with you or anybody. It is Dun Morogh in both the dwarves and the gnomes starting zone. So, because we're talking about gnomes and dwarves, you got to have a little sip. I'll see you on the other side of that intro. Anyway, so before we go into new business, we're going to go into some old business. So one, I want to apologize for the audio last EP, this episode 2. So the audio in episode 1 was not up to my snuff. I know most people will be like, what the hell are you talking about? But to all my audio files and engineers out there, I do apologize. We are going to go back and do another Warcraft 3 episode. I know I missed some plot points like the whole Medivh thing and everything that was going on there. So we're going to go back and do another Warcraft 3 episode. I'm going to play Warcraft 3 again, kind of brush up on everything that happened to that. And after we're done going through all the starting zones, we will go back to Warcraft 3. And that'll kind of be the next couple episodes. Today we're going to do the Dwarf and Gnome starting zone of Dun Morogh. So that means next week we will do the orcs and the trolls in Durtar. And then we'll switch them up. I just don't want to do 4 alliance in a row. I know all my horde players will stop watching and vice versa if I do 4 horde in the row. So that's what the next couple episodes are going to be like. We're just going to be going through the starting zones. And then we'll come back around and do like the main events of what happened in Classic WoW. And then what we'll do is we'll go and do another Warcraft 3 episode and that'll be season 1 or series 1 for my UK listener. Besides that, appreciate the support. I appreciate everybody stopping by and watching the video, the first podcast, everybody that is watching the shorts. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me personally, especially with the shorts. I make those. She doesn't make any. She just shows up here and looks cute for the podcast. So like I said, we're going to do the 4 starting zones of Classic first. We're going to do them back to back. Then we'll do a recap of Warcraft 2 or Warcraft 3 and then what was going on in Classic. So that's what I got in store for the next couple episodes. So what do you know about dwarves in popular culture, just in the way dwarves and dwarven culture in the way of any other games that you played?
Yeah, so terrible news. I don't know anything.
That's embarrassing. I am a dwarf main and you don't know anything about dwarves.
I know. I don't play dwarves or gnomes across anything. Sorry, I go for like the sexy, hot characters. And I'm sorry, I don't think gnomes and dwarves are sexy. And hey,
whoa! This just in, they are.
I also think that I get dwarves and gnomes mixed up. I think I know more about gnomes.
What do you know about gnomes?
They are generally more like mechanically inclined.
Yep.
So they have like machines and things like that. I know that because of you. You've told me that, but also in my favorite book ever, Legends and Lattes, the main character gets her coffee machine from the gnomes. The coffee espresso machine is like a gnomish machine in their world. So,
and what about dwarves? Like, you know that they like mining?
Didn't know that.
That's like a fundamental thing about most dwarves and most things is that they come from the mountain. You at least know that. How do you not know that?
I've never played as a dwarf. I have no need or want or desire to do that. So sorry.
That changes the whole script of this episode.
I'm sorry. You don't consult me before you make your script. You don't tell me anything because I'm not supposed to, but I'm telling you that unfortunately I know more about gnomes, and what I know about gnomes isn't much. Maybe I knew that dwarves, I do know that they're my chin on my mic. I do know that, I'm sorry, I'll take it back. I do know that they are miners because of...
Whoa, they're miners? Dwarves are not miners. They
mine. Miners. Because of Snow White.
That's true, yeah.
So I take it back. I did know that.
Okay. All right. The reason I always start there is because for most people who don't know anything about World of Warcraft, a lot of their lore is kind of recycled from other places. Now they do add a new twist to it, but like a dwarf, and that's just not World of Warcraft. A dwarf is a dwarf is a dwarf is a dwarf. In most games, gnomes can get a little tricky because sometimes they portray them as like the mechanical gnomes, which they do in World of Warcraft, and sometimes they're like forest gnomes. I'm a gnome, like they're Keebler elves. I'm not particular that big fan of that version of gnome. I feel like if I want a gnome, I need it to be like a mechanical engineer for whatever reason. So me personally, in the mythos of gnomes, I'm definitely on the side of more on the side of like the mechanical. So yes, that's fairly close to the lore in World of Warcraft. So the first thing you need to learn about dwarves, which I gotta just preface this, dwarves come from the mountains. So in most popular culture, but specifically with World of Warcraft, they come from the mountains and they live in the mountains. So every other city, for the most part, that I can think of besides the undead city, is like outside. The dwarves obviously have their city of Ironforge carved into a mountain. So you're like walking in. Um, there are a couple different um tribes of dwarves, specifically in World of Warcraft. Dwarves in popular culture will have very much like they'll be like the mining dwarves. And those are like the Chads of most dwarven cultures. And you have like the jewel cutter dwarf, and they're all cousins. They're all different tribes. So even though in WoW, like there are multiple like different tribes of dwarves, but within those dwarves, there's also different factions. Like these are the blacksmith, these are the mining dwarves. Another big thing about dwarves, and especially in World of Warcraft, is they're big into their history, so they want to learn about themselves. Obviously, you're getting why I like to play dwarves. Rather, sorry, dwarves.
I always think you play gnomes for some reason, and you have to tell me every time. You're like, I've never played a gnome. I mean, I don't just say never.
Never played a gnome, but I would prefer a dwarf.
Which is funny. I don't know why I always think that.
Also, you've seen like Lord of the Rings, so you know like Gimli.
Yeah, he's a dwarf. I was thinking he's a gnome. I'm so sorry.
Obviously,
I
he's
can't
dwarf.
believe I've said that.
No, he's a wood elf. No, he's a dwarf. I was just saying, like, it's obvious that he's a dwarf.
Oh, no. I knew he was one of the two. I don't know why. I don't know why. Maybe I like gnomes. Maybe that's the thing.
I mean, technically, within World of Warcraft, dwarves and gnomes are cousins. Like, they're cousins in the sense that they're like, they come from the same progenitor race. What are you looking at?
Nothing. You're gonna get into it. I was trying to look up a map of Dun Morogh.
Dun Morogh. All right, so in World of Warcraft, there are three major clans of dwarves. Like I said, dwarves are living like a clannish culture. So there's going to be three. We're going to go over them now. In WoW Classic, you can really only make a Bronzebeard dwarf. In later expansions, they add that you can make other dwarves, and it's not like implicitly like you don't select that thing. You just kind of put cosmetics on it to make it look more like a other kind of dwarf. Um, I'm lying to you because you can make in the modern game, you can make a dark iron dwarf, but we'll get into what that is. So
They look crazy.
who?
Dark iron. Dark iron. Why does that?
So we're gonna go over the three major tribes of dwarves. The first is going to be the Wildhammer tribe. The Wildhammer tribe is a flying tribe, and they're like the hippie tribe, I would say. That was the best way to explain it to them. So they're actually not from Ironforge. They live upon Airy Peak. And they are the dwarves that you're going to see in like on top of the griffins, like the griffin riders.
Yes, I've seen those.
The funny thing about that, and this is why you can tell that their different factions, is when you talk to the Ironforge guards, one of the flavor texts they can say is keep your feet on the ground, because they're referencing that they are like mountain dwarves, and like
That was a crazy accent.
that's their accent.
I know. It was angry. It was Scottish.
Yeah, well, that's what they are. I caught a lot of flack because I made a short and I said Cosmodan, which is where they're from, reminded me of Ireland and Wales, and somebody was like, dwarves are Scottish.
Whoa, how dare you? That's crazy.
But they are, like, they definitely are, so I do apologize to all the great Scotsmen out there. Um, you know, we all remember Scotland on a daily, to all my Scots out there. Anyway, so these are the griffins, these are the dwarves riding griffins. They're pretty cool, they're pretty chill. You in World of Warcraft, like the original, the classic, you will run into them. And they're fighting trolls in Airy Peak, but they're pretty cool. But they're basically they live with nature. They don't live within the mountain, they live with nature. So that's like the big takeaway. And two, they actually so the Alliance use griffins as flight mask, so that's like fast flight, or that's like fast traveling. So you'll get on a griffin and it'll fly you somewhere you've already been. All of the griffins on the Alliance side, all the flight masters and all the griffins are trained by the Airy Peak people. So that's why they're very, very important to the overall economy and I guess like use of the so, yeah. Thoughts?
No, I'm
Thoughts?
sorry. I did have a thought, but I actually remember there wasn't. I had an experience with World of Warcraft before I met you. Um, a friend, New York, used to bring his entire tower
Yep.
with him to play it, and always he would like set it to fly and then walk away.
Yes.
That was like a thing, and I was like, you can just do that.
Yeah, so that's like the fast travel. Now, back in the day, like you could have like if you were going tip to continent, hey yo, you could have like a 5 to 10 minute like thing. So like it was something I don't think Blizzard did it on purpose, but it was something that Blizzard had to kind of like obviously help you get everywhere, but it was also like, hey, go take a break. You know what I mean? Because usually when you landed somewhere, you would be in a town where no like people or mobs could like attack you for the most part. So you could like walk away.
Blizzard was like, "Hey, go touch some grass real quick.
Hey, Smelly, go
Go wipe your ass."
go wipe your ass. The second, which are the Dark Iron dwarves, they are until later in the game, and we'll get into this a little bit more. Um, with a character called, ironically enough, Moria, which the funny part of that is because in Lord of the Rings, the mine that they're in, like they have to with the light up tree called Moria. So this
I
is a
said the game.
character. Right. So you knew enough about dwarves through that
They
game.
were hobbits, I thought.
No,
Oh my god.
they're dwarves. They're not hobbits. They're dwarves. Oh my God, embarrassing. Absolutely disgusting.
Oh, can I be like just completely frank? Can I be frank for a minute?
Who Frank?
Sometimes like because of how much fantasy stuff that you and I both take into our brains, for me, sometimes it all just meshes together. I can't help that. It's not
I mean, there's a clear difference between even hobbits and
100% hobbits are taller.
I mean, yes, but gnomes are more mechanical in nature. Like the whole thing with hobbits, like they're like
What?
it's like you said they're white.
No, they're what?
And the thing with hobbits is like they're more.
They're just
they're-
frolicking.
yes, they're definitely just frolicking for sure. But also the bigger thing is they're like they live in like a community of people, and it's like living in like the suburb in like the 40s.
You know, it's like a commune.
No, because it's not like a commune, because with, like, hobbits, there's, like, the Took, and then there's, like, all this internal strife, and there's, like, different cousins within the hobbits that do different things,
A lot.
where gnomes and, like, a big thing about the hobbits is they just wanna be left alone. Gnomes are more like explorers, like, "We're gonna go explore." There's definitely gnomes don't have hairy feet, hobbits were, like I don't know if they were the precursor. Hey, chat, can you tell me if hobbits were the precursor to gnomes?
What came
No,
first, chicken or the egg?
gnomes do feel really like as a product of like the 80s, though, for whatever reason. Feels like it's gotta like come out of the 80s, like the Reagan era mechanical shit, like rock on, you know what I mean? Anyway, so the Dark Iron Dwarves, hate to break it to you, they are the evil dwarves. They're not the good dwarves. The reason they are evil is for a lot of reasons, which we'll go into. Um, so
Hold on, let's just really quickly, just a really quick sidebar. Hold on.
sidebar. Well, it'd be a small bar because it's about gnomes and hobbits.
I wish I could type.
You'll get there. A lot of dead air.
I know. I'm really sorry. I'm like trying so hard.
Of dead air.
I just want to know what the difference between all of these. I know we're not talking about hobbits, but hobbits are half human.
Yeah.
Did I know that?
Right.
That's what a halfling is. Maybe half dwarf, half human.
No, a halfling is like a half. It's like a human, but half size. Half size. That's like
They've got it. I'm so sorry. I'm not trying to compare humans and dogs, but they've got to be mixed with something. You don't get.
Well, the half part is that they're half the size of a human. It's not that they're half human. It has to do with their size.
Just literally so much information to take in. I don't know how to feel about any of this.
Well, that's why they're called halflings.
Okay.
Because they're half the size of humans.
So halflings, no, gnomes are
Smaller.
of elves.
No.
Yes.
So gnomes in popular lore, yes, but not gnomes in World of Warcraft. Yes.
Blizzard really said, you know what? Fuck the lore.
And the mechanical gnome, I think they kind of made up. I can't.
If they did, that's great because, like I said, it's trickled into other media.
Yeah,
Because
but maybe that was in Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, I'm sure that it maybe was. I didn't know how their gnomes are set up.
I don't mean to go on veer off. I think I fear this. I really, 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 really need to know what the difference between these three are because I don't understand. Yeah, the mining and the mechanicals and then being a tiny human. I hate to say it. Well, I can't say that. It's not PC. Little people is what I was trying to say.
What about them? Little people don't factor this into all. This is a
Halflings is what you said. They're small.
But like our version of
This is too much for me.
Listen to me.
I'm listening.
Put the phone down. Put the phone down. Halflings are a different thing. They're called halflings because they're half human. I'm going with that. I'm rocking with.
Okay, go ahead.
Gnomes are tinier. Gnomes are tinier than dwarves. Halflings, dwarves are probably the same size. Halflings are probably a little bit bigger than dwarves. Okay? Gnomes are the smallest. These gnomes are mechanical. Okay? That's all you need to know about gnomes until we get into gnomes.
All right, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry.
Phone down.
This is literally too much for me. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm like, I really.
You're having an existential crisis when it's
I actually am. Like, I'm not gonna sleep tonight. Okay, go ahead.
because of the little people.
Because of all of it, dude. Like,
anyway, all right. So the third race of dwarves are the Dark Iron Dwarves, who are actually in World of Warcraft, the original game. The Dark Iron Dwarves are like magical dwarves. So typically in World of Warcraft, the dwarves are not a magical race. They can be paladins, but that's because they're like strong and noble. They can also be priests for that same reason. So the only two magical things that dwarves can start out being in the original game is is paladins and priests because they can be blessed with the holy light, which is understandable. We went over that the last time. The Dark Iron Dwarves were like dwarves that were like, yeah, we don't care that you said we can't do magic. We're going to go learn how to do magic, and we're going to talk to basically the evil spirits of the earth. And that's kind of where we pick up with Dark Iron Dwarf in World of Warcraft, the original Warcraft. They are in another mountain. They're not in Ironforge, and they are starting to summon Ragnaros, who is a elemental creature who can literally like burn down the whole world. And the Dark Iron Dwarves are trying to summon him so that they can destroy the Ironforge and like the dwarves and gain power on a larger. So that's what the Dark Irons are doing. The one thing I will say about Ragnaros, so this is a well-known story, but it's also a very interesting story, so we're going to go over it. Dead Air, the podcast. Ragnaros is a raid. So back in the day when we're talking about group content, you had something called dungeon. They were typically smaller, but they needed 5 people, right? So as the game is progressing, the early game is progressing, um, they are realizing that they need to make what's called a raid, which is 40 people in one dungeon. Now, I want to just give this context. Discord is not a thing. Ventrilo is a thing. So this is the era of like Leroy Jenkins and
Okay.
stuff. This is sort of before that time. Now, legend has it, if I'm remembering this right, that they built the whole dungeon of that Ragnaros is in, and Molten Core, in within a week, because they were like, shit, people are getting to endgame. We don't know what we're gonna do. We have to build the raid. We have to build this raid. So Jeff Kaplan, who you know who Jeff Kaplan is, he's the guy that talked about Overwatch when it first came out. He was like a white guy. He had like, yeah. No, this is everybody.
White guy had a face.
Jeff Kaplan was actually the guy who was the lead designer of Ragnar, of the Molten Core. This is the guy I always get mad about because of the Tracer Butt saga.
No, I'm listening to you and I'm hearing him. I'm trying to. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So Jeff Kaplan, and this is why Overwatch was so important to me when it came out, was because everybody that designed like the first, like,
I remember you telling me that.
yeah,
Joe.
like the first dungeons of WoW all became to work on Overwatch. So that's why Overwatch was always so cool, because it was like, oh hell yeah, these are the guys that made my childhood, and then it crashed and burned. But that's where
Played.
we definitely did. The Overwatch doesn't have the lasting power. Anyway, so that's the cool thing about that's a cool little sidebar. I always find that they had to build that in a week, and it was in response to they didn't want players at in-game to stop playing WoW because there was no content, so they basically had to crank that out quick. So, shout out to Jeff Kaplan. We won't talk about the Tracer but conspiracy, but yes,
Needing 40 people to complete something is insane, especially in that time.
oh, it was nuts.
Like now you could join a Discord and find 40 people in like 3 minutes, but
Yeah.
back then you're like,
Well, you usually had a guild, and guilds were a lot larger. So, guild is a large association of people, and you were definitely pugging. Don't get me wrong. The craziest, sorry, pugging was when like you have 30 people and you need to get 10 more people. Those 10 people would be called pugs because you're like just kind of grabbing them. They're not part of the whole association. I don't know why it's called. So the craziest part was there was no dungeon like guides or anything. So like it was all word of mouth.
yeah.
Like you didn't know if what was going to go on in fights. You could go to the forums and see what people were talking about. But there was no, and a lot of people will argue this is why classic WoW was better, but there was no like you do that, we're going to do this, you know what I mean? Or there was no like step-by-step guide. You kind of had to figure it out. But at the same time, that made raid night crazy, because you didn't know what would, like, say you cleared one boss and you were like, yeah, let's go clear the next boss. If you didn't know what was going to happen, you were just going to get wiped, and it was going to take a lot longer. So there wasn't a lot of resources on the fights in general. And then, yes, you had 40 people in Ventrilo, which, shout out Ventrilo. We're a Ventrilo and not a TeamSpeak 3 family. But it, like, you didn't have the option. Like, usually when you raid now, everybody but the guy making calls or the raid leader would be muted, and then the only person that can talk would, like, the raid leader who's making calls. Now that's not or back then it wasn't necessarily the case, and you could mute people, but it would be like difficult to, not difficult, but like just the whole raiding culture has changed because of the tools that exist outside of the game, and people always get mad about that. But it's like, what is Blizzard supposed to do? Like, design around that, you know what I mean? And they have in later years, but again, it's a giant thing. Anyway, saying all that to say, so anyway, here we are, we're back. Next we're going to talk about what is considered dwarf country, because that's very important to them. That is called Cosmodan. So Cosmodan was originally, yes, it is, now it's called Lochmodan and the associated zones. Cosmodan was the dwarven country, and that was where the original dwarf kingdoms were. So for the most part, even Airy Peak is still in Cosmodan. It's kind of on the fringes, but it's still kind of connected to them. Cosmodan is, to me, like Dun Morogh, where Ironforge is, Lochmodan, a little bit of the wetlands. That's where the dwarves run into the humans on that side. Airy Peak is in the hinterlands, so that's sort of north of South Shore and stuff. So Cosmodan is the dwarves' ancestral land. So as you're adventuring through all this, you'll know you're in dwarf land because they carve all the tunnels between the mountains. So you'll go through what are these like mountain passes. The mountain passes are very cool, but whenever you go through the mountain passes, like, you're in dwarf country. So everywhere you go in dwarf country, there's dwarf architecture. So where the Fizzuck you are. You're in Cosmo. So before the events of Warcraft 3, let me think, maybe not of Warcraft 3. Anyway, not sure exactly where, but there is an event called the War of the Three Hammers. The Three Hammers each hammer represents one of the clans. So you have Wildhammer, you have Bronzebeard, who we will go over because those are the ones that I forgot to go over. And then you have the Dark Iron. So let's go over the Bronzebeard. The Bronzebeards, this is a good segue, actually. So let me not talk so bad about myself. The Bronzebeards are the playable dwarves in the game. So even though the Dark Iron dwarves and the Wildhammer dwarves are in the game, you can't make them when you play the game. So you're making a bronze. They are the leader of the dwarves. They are the people that control Ironforge. That's why they're called the Bronzebeards for a couple reasons. Anvil Malar Bronzebeard was the guy who was trying to keep all the dwarf tribes together before they start fighting. He is a pretty chill guy, pretty cool guy, pretty demure guy. But the Bronzebeards are the main faction of dwarves that you are in World of Warcraft, and that's where a lot of the lore of Cosmodan comes from. The Bronzebeards are like crafting dwarves. So they're miners.
They're miners.
They're the Bronzebeards are miners. ASL. They're miners. They make they're blacksmiths. They're jewel cutters. So they're like the real artisanal dwarf. So just for future reference, Wildhammer, they're on the griffins, they're throwing the hammer. Dark Irons, they're magic, Ragnaros, all that. The Bronzebeards are like your typical dwarves and how dwarves would be in most fantasy games. They're the dwarves that are in the mountains and they're making. That's whatever. So on top of the Bronzebeards also being artisanal ones, they are also like the fighters and they're explorers. So you have somebody like Morden Bronzebeard. Ooh, that got real sweet. Morden Bronzebeard, he is so to talk about the three Bronzebeard brothers is to talk about like what the whole clan does. So there's three. There's Morden, who is a fighter. He's like a dwarf. He's like a dwarf warrior, so he's like Glimley, essentially. That's who Morden is. You have his brother, who's Bran Bronzebeard, who we went over last week. He is the explorer one. He is the youngest brother, and he is like going off doing like Indiana Jones side quest. That's what Bran's doing. Then there's Magni Bronzebeard. He is the king. I don't think he's the oldest. I think Morden is the oldest, but Morden's like, bro, I'm fighting. You're
They got that shit. Responsibility.
So within those three like positions, you see what's important to the Bronzebeard, which is defending their kingdoms. That's Magni. Finding out about themselves. That's Bran. And then like this administrative class, because that's another big thing in Dwarven culture is that they're like getting shit done. So they're like administrators. There's dwarves that are like the miners and the blacksmiths, but like also respected as the people who are filling the orders, traveling and stuff like that. So
Everyone has their place.
right. So that's sort of Magni role and all that. So to say all that, to go back to the War of the Three Hammers, the War of the Three Hammers is what split the tribes up. Now the Bronzebeards and the Wildhammers are still kind of together. Like they're not really fighting each other. They just don't want to live with one another because the Bronzebeards won. And I think the Wildhammers like, fuck you guys, we're just gonna live in the mountains, which they kind of have to the griffins and stuff. So that's sort of where they are. They're still like neutral to one another. They just don't live around each other. Like kind of like your family around, any sort of holiday. Like, yeah, it's cool we can be around each other for a little bit, but we don't want to live with you. The Dark Irons, because they are like doing all this magic and doing all this bad shit, and because they sort of started the War of the Three Hammers, they're in their own mountain. They're doing some whole other shit, and they are actually hostile to players and to
That's crazy.
right. So if you
They're underground.
yes, they do. They do live underground, but they also like anywhere that there's like a mouth of a mountain, or they're like also there so that they can get resources from the top. So they're not all in the mountains at all times. You understand what I'm saying? So the thing that you have to understand about dwarves, and we'll get in this with gnomes, and this is gonna make your brain roll even more, is what are trogs. So trogs are you can Google what a trog. I don't think I could explain to you what a trog is. You're reaching for your second phone.
I was. Text my text and ask them if they know what a trog is.
A trog. There we go. Yep.
Can't live like this.
So trogs are sort of wild, not sort of. They are wild. And not.
This reminds me of something that I've seen. A hag. It looks like a hag.
Anyway, yeah. So the reason why trogs are important, why we have to talk about trogs, is because one, when we get into why the gnomes don't have their own capital city like the dwarves do, it has a lot to do with the trogs. And then on top of that, you have to understand that trogs, dwarves, and gnomes all come from the Titan gods. So basically, what's happening there are these gods, and we'll get into them not in this episode, but another episode, and they are the progenitor gods of Azeroth. They start making minions to help them with whatever their main task is. So dwarves and gnomes are made by, I believe, Miradon. And he is a giant robot like creature. Um, so what happens is they make trogs first. Trogs get affected by the curse of the flesh, and then trogs go crazy and they realize that they can't control them, or so the trogs are also in the mountain soup, if you will. With
Please don't call it mountain soup.
Mountain soup, in the stone mountain soup of both the dwarves and the gnomes. So basically, as the dwarves and the gnomes are trying to do dwarf and gnome shit, you have trogs there, and they're like busting out, and they're like causing all this ruckus. Like
Well, it says they have low intelligence, so they're not very smart. They probably don't really know what they're doing.
That's sort of the thing, is that when the Titans first made them, they
made the army angry.
Right. Yes, exactly. So as you go through the first leveling zones of the dwarves and the gnomes, one of the biggest enemies you're going to be fighting is the trogs. And the dwarves particularly, and the gnomes, for reasons that will be discussed, really hate frogs. And we don't really learn that they are like related until a few expansions later. Like I think it's hinted in like the dungeons or whatever, but it's not really like come out and said. Like you kind of have to read in between the lines. So when we realized that dwarves and trogs were all the same, everybody was like, no, this is a travesty. Why is this happening? Why would Blizzard do this? Because they didn't want to like accept it, but at the same time, it was like they kind of all had to be related because they were all kind of in the simmering down there in that mountain soup.
That's what I was about to say. Like, even if it wasn't told to me blatantly, like it would just make sense because you've already said that dwarves and gnomes are related in a way. So you're gonna tell me that the third tiny humanoid thing isn't gonna be from the same family tree? Come on, man.
Right, right.
What do you take me for, an idiot?
What do you take me for? Some sort of dummy? Um, yes. So, another thing in his response, there was one guy who blamed me in the shorts, and it was like, dwarves are obviously Scottish. And so I put a note in here that says, apologize to Scotland and saying that they weren't Scottish in one of the shorts. I apologize. Dwarves speak Scottish, yo. That's just the note that I put in here. Dwarves speak Scottish. But they do talk, and I can't.
Yeah, you did it earlier. It was terrifying. Please don't do it again.
Keep your feet on the ground. I don't like that. It is sort of Scottish. It's more Scottish than Irish or Welsh, so I will apologize.
As an Irish.
As an Irish, it's definitely Scottish.
No, there is a difference. There's a difference in it, but like also Scotland and Ireland look similar.
Wow.
Hey, I can say that.
Well, there's Highlands of Scotland. That's like one prominent there, but Ireland is like more lowland.
I know.
You know what I mean?
The Emerald Isle.
I just can't get over like the damage that fat bastard has done
On the Scottish culture.
at least to my image of what Scotland.
Michael Myers, how dare you?
How dare you? And he's actually, I think he's Scouser, a proper Scouser. I think he's from Liverpool, or his parents are from Liverpool.
Wait, he's Canadian. I know that for.
Yeah, but his parents immigrated.
Okay, another little side quest, real quick. Mike Myers, comedian. Listen.
Where are his parents from? Because he talks.
I'm going to tell you in just a moment.
Mike Myers is a proper full
Scouser. His nationality is American, British, and Canadian.
Yeah.
So if you really want it, I'm trying to. Wikipedia just really is not being my friend right now.
Hey, yeah.
Early life, really quick. His mother's name, it was Alice, but she went by Bunny. I hate that.
That's
his parents were British immigrants from the Old Swan area of Liverpool.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah,
So
I was correct.
his parents were from
Proper fucking Scouser. So,
and that's crazy. Really quick, another quick sidebar. An old coworker of mine was Canadian from Canada, and his parents were also British.
yeah, that's how they get there.
It's crazy.
Because Canada was like a. So sorry, our stupid orange boy got in here. Canada is it's a kingdom of England. England colonized. So yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, how many
It was
other
split up
British
between
people
like
are?
the French and the English. That's why there's the French Canadian side.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, everybody's learning a lot on this podcast.
Sorry,
It's not just about war.
I apologize. I'm just.
Moral of the story is if you're ever playing bar trivia, I'm putting up 40 like Kobe. Like that's just how it is. Just because I know so much. Anyway,
True.
right back into it. So as a dwarf, you're gonna start in Dun Morogh. You're gonna actually start in Coldridge Valley. That's where you're gonna spawn in. When you were watching me play Project Epoch the other day and trying to move, I was trying to stream. I was like, this is a new WoW private server. Yes, yeah.
And everyone was standing around.
Yeah, and jumping. Yeah, so that's where you're gonna start as a dwarf and a gnome in WoW Classic. As the gnomes get more established, as the story goes on, of their own little starting zone. But you're gonna start in Coldridge Valley. So Coldridge Valley is just basically obviously one of valley, and it's within a ridge and it's cold, duh. Um, but that's where you're gonna be introduced to trogs because trogs are kind of out and about and they're attacking the dwarves. You're also going to be introduced to the ice trolls. I forget what tribe of trolls are from. The Frostmere. Yeah.
I don't want to talk.
We're not talking. Yeah, that'll all be next week. So, Frostmere trolls, you really don't see them outside their starting zone, but they're just there and they are a tribe of trolls that live within the mountain, that the dwarves have been fighting. Once you go out of Coldridge Valley, that's when you enter Dun Morogh. Dun Morogh is going to have it is the zone around Ironforge. So the big things that you're fighting in Dun Morogh is you're trying to keep everybody warm and socked up for the winter. So you're going out and you're killing boars, you're killing wolves to get resources. And
That app I had back up.
Dun Morogh.
Just can't type.
This can't type. So the big thing in Dun Morogh is that I don't want to say helping the war effort, but what you're doing is you're helping just keep everybody taken care of and make sure that everybody is, like I said, fed and warm. There is what's a steam tank facility there. So steam tanks are obviously tanks. Weirdly enough, the steam tanks are only driven by dwarves, and I think they're actually made by dwarves. I don't think the gnomes have anything to do with it. They might. But the dwarves or the gnomes are more of like a like they have the flying helicopter. I think you can upload those on screen. So you're one of the quests is like the dwarves that are driving the tank are like, we need mead, we need boar because we're about to go on an expedition. You also have, and this is gonna blow your mind, the Yetis in the World of Warcraft universe.
I think I knew that.
Okay, and because they are in the snowy mountains or whatever, of course there's going to be Yetis. So there's a quest naturally. So there's quests to go and steal supplies back from the Yetis. I don't know. I think the Yetis are just stealing them, dickheads. I don't think that's like
Again, I
smart.
think that is a creature with low intelligence. They're not known for being smart. I could be wrong in this universe, but generally speaking, Yetis are just big and dumb.
Yes. So that's
So again,
fair.
just I don't know how I feel about Blizzard using that against them. You know what I mean? Like they're really exploiting these creatures for being dumb.
These mythical creatures.
I'll cry. I'll cry right now.
These beautiful mythic creatures. Blizzard, how could you be doing this? So when you get into Dun Morogh, like I said, there's nothing that's like really attacking the dwarves besides like regional threats that they've always had. They've always had to fight the trogs. They've always had to deal with the Yeti beast. They live in a cold environment, so they've always sort of had to like be prepared to cover their wind. So it's nothing that is like a real threat or even a new threat. My favorite quest in Classic World of Warcraft in Dun Morogh is you basically so you have to take these casks from the inn in Dun Morogh, and you have to take these casks to like other not towns but settlements. And so there's one where you have to replace a cast of one dwarven brewing clan for like another to prove to the dwarves in another town that beer is as good or better than their beer. So that's another thing about dwarf culture. That's why I had this here the whole time and never really explained it. But obviously, dwarves like to drink. They are, if I really think about it, they're really the working class of World of
That's
Warcraft.
honestly how you're describing it. So
Dwarves are the new punk rock. They 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 do all the work, they do all the manual labor, they care about their families, they care about their specific crafts that they're in, they care about the overall total alliance, but they also care about drinking and having fun and and when they're not
tradesmen.
yes, they're very much the tradesmen. Yeah. They're the working blue collar, blue class, and dwarf is the new punk, and I don't care what anybody says. So, that's dwarven culture in a nutshell, really. Um, they are in different clans that do different things. Primarily, they're working in the mountain, and they like to work hard and play hard. So what does he do?
Nothing. He's just being a boy.
Anyway, so now we're going to talk about the city of Ironforge and really how cool it is. Ironforge is the greatest city in the game, and it will always remain the greatest city in the game. Again, that is not up for argument. But before this, I just want to get into basically as a World of Warcraft player, that was like I wouldn't say my first fantasy sort of world. But I understood very well that like dwarves the archetype of dwarves from Lord of the Rings. So you don't really in the original trilogy of Lord of the Rings, you don't see the dwarves in the city.
Okay.
You see them fighting through the city, but you kind of understood what the architecture of dwarves was. So the first time I went into Ironforge, it was like probably, I don't know, the first time like drag queens see, like, I don't know, whatever movie makes drag Rocky Horror Picture Show. Yeah, yeah. So I was just like, I'm home. I'm home now.
As a Rocky Horror fan, I'm not sure about that.
Okay, anyway,
Not sure about that.
I'm not sure about that one. Anyway, so the coolest thing about Ironforge is one that it's in a mountain. So you're kind of like walking up this vista to get to or this ramp, not like a ramp, but you're going up a hill in the snow to get to Ironforge. So like the setting of it before you even get to it is like, oh, this is awesome. Like you're seeing the city before you go into it, which I thought was always really interesting as a kid. Um Two, when you go into it, there are the gates of Ironforge. So there are these huge, giant gates that are open so they get into the city. But when you walk into it, the setting is just immaculate. So as soon as you walk in, giant statue of Anvimilar Bronzebeard, who was the guy in the beginning who trying to keep all the dwarf tribes together. Because the Bronzebeard left, they build the statue of him there because he is a symbol of like all the dwarf
Unity.
unity, right? Um, so as you walk into Ironforge, like I said, one thing I don't like about Ren Fair sometimes is like the setting, like like the physical setting, like how the one Ren Fair we go to is like all the buildings are built out and everything. Anyway, so how like the setting is really important, like how they build the buildings to make it all look like castles and stuff. Like I feel like that adds to the vibe so much.
Ren Fair and World of Warcraft are not one and the same.
No, no, I get there.
He's like, I hate Ren Fair because it's not WoW World.
But what I'm saying is like the setting and how the setting is presented is such a big part of the game. Um, and I would say with any fantasy setting, it's so important. So the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. So as you walk into the city, like I say, you see the giant statue. So Ironforge is a giant round city. So what happens is that there is lava, yes, that lava, running through the whole
As opposed to
not that lava. But it's running through the whole city. So there's like these tiny little bridges and stuff that you got to walk over to get to the lava gate. So the reason that the lava gate there, or there's this lava flowing through,
I've seen Ironforge.
yes, is because they are obviously there's something called the Great Forge in Iron Forge, and the Great Forge is where all the greatest dwarven weapons are made, and you'll see the giant bucket just splashing lava over it. So I remember the first time seeing that as a kid, I was like, "Whoa, what the heck?" Because like I'd never seen anything like that. Another thing, and just to talk about setting and how investing in setting does very good. Um, you get this natural warmth from Ironforge. Let me explain. That sounded a little bit weird, but because Dun Morogh is like a snowy zone, um, you feel like you feel Ironforge is more like home because you're getting out of the cold. You understand? And for whatever reason, um, and it has to do with the lighting thing, but you can really like feel Ironforge walk into it. Yeah.
He said, I'm having uh, phantom heat.
Yes, exactly. Sorry. I was taking a sip of the beer. Um um so basically it makes Ironforge feel like warm and fuzzy. And I've never had a setting in a video game that to me before. And I remember I was probably 14 or 15 and I thought that was like the coolest thing in the world. Because I was like, "Whoa, setting," you know what I mean? obviously, when you watch Lord of the Rings as a young adult, all you care about is orcs' heads getting cut off. So you don't really appreciate the setting. But like I said, Blizzard does, at least in Ironforge, a real good job of typing the setting. Another important thing about Ironforge 2, and I don't know if they did this on purpose or accident, but like where the king is sitting, where King Magni is sitting, is right outside of the Great Forge. So like it makes it seem like he is very like involved with the happening, what's going on with the Great. So I thought that was very, very as I again, I don't know if that was on purpose or what, but as a design choice, I thought that was really cool because it was like he doesn't have a court. He has like, blacksmiths and doing blacksmith. You know what I mean?
Forging and such.
Forging and such. Yes. Yes. These are my forgers. Forgers on Dizak. Um Another thing about Iron Forge, and this is gonna feel sad or not sad depending on who you are. But Iron Forge is back in the day. I don't know if it was the only place, but I remember it was a place that I always went with my friends during Christmas because it felt very much like a Christmas city. So World of Warcraft has like seasonal events that mirror real events. So there's like a Easter festival, there's a Christmas festival. Anyway, so needless to say, Santa Claus in the WoW universe is a dwarf.
I don't like that.
I like to, and that's always where the Christmas starting quest would start. And so I always kind of associated, like, I don't know what your family thing is, but my family thing is the Christmas Story. Did you guys watch that during Christmas? You didn't watch like Home
My
Alone?
family went to church.
Yeah, but you guys didn't have like a movie like Home Alone or anything. All right, so most people that weren't neglected as children, most people who neglected as children have
I
like
watched Nightmare Before Christmas.
right, yeah. So that's sort of like a
Just me, not my family.
no, I get that, but that's sort of like a Christmas vibe thing to do. It's sort of like
Your sister still makes us watch A Christmas Story every year.
yeah, because it's classic. She doesn't make anybody watch it. We all want to watch.
No, she makes us watch it.
You're gonna shoot out your eye. It's such a good movie. And we're not gonna get down the Die Hard Christmas movie, but um, what I want to say is that for me, Iron Forge is part of my mythos of Christmas because I always remember going there at Christmas as a kid, and it's always something I think you've picked up on. This is always during Christmas. And I don't know if this is related to like sad seasonal depressive disorder or whatever, but I will always have an active WoW subscription because I just want to be in Iron Forge during Christmas.
I have seen that Christmas scene on your computer many times, many years, many years.
So, um, I always, when I was writing this, I was like, one thing I wanted to like personally thank, not that anybody from Blizzard watch this, but
They're watching it right now.
they, they're like literally phone tapping this. But I always just wanted to thank people from Blizzard because like that made it into my part of my Christmas mythos of where it was like people are gonna watch Home Alone 2 or people are gonna watch A Christmas Story or Die Hard with their family. And not that I was playing WoW in my, but part of my personal Christmas mythos definitely walking around Iron Forge because it just feels like home, feels like where you could be during Christmas. So I just wanted to touch on that personally. I know some people have like another big one is Booty Bay. Uh Please don't laugh. Booty Bay is like the pirate town, and that's where the
I was hearing Booty Bay as in E-A-E.
like damn Bay.
Yeah, that's. I was like, what is he about to say?
Yeah, no. So Booty Bay has uh uh New Year's fireworks. So you go and walk by the docks. And yeah, so I think I only did that like 1 or 2 years. It doesn't have the same like memory for me.
Yeah.
But old Winterbeard, whatever the hell that guy is, being in Iron Forge, like I always remember that vividly as a kid and as an adult, and because it was sad and I was like, nobody likes me. I'm just gonna go play my game.
My thing was Animal Crossing, GameCube. My family would be downstairs waiting for the ball to drop. I'd be like, sorry, my villagers need me. And that was like 3 or 4 years in a row. After Animal Crossing came out, that's why.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. There's like a little thing that you do.
Yeah. So yeah, that sounded really I'm not depressed or schizophrenic. Anyway.
Well, at least one of the.
Yeah, flip a coin on either day. Anyway, so off to the no. So gone over the difference between dwarves and gnomes. Dwarves and gnomes share the same starting zone in World of Warcraft. And the reason for that is because Gnomergon, which is the
Say it again.
Gnomergon,
Okay.
Gnomergon,
Good.
Gnomergeddon. Well, there is actually something called Operation Gnomergeddon. Excuse me, sorry, that beer's getting burped out of me. So gnomes are from the city of Gnomergon. It was very close to the mountain of Ironforge. What happens is trolls start getting into the city. Now there's a major difference in scenery in the matter of Ironforge and Gnomergon. Ironforge is more rustic, as I would explain it. Gnomergon obviously is more technological based. So there's there's gears and such. There's robots.
I think I'm a gnome girl.
I 100% agree. I would definitely agree with that. Um, Gnomes are actually the thing about gnomes is that they're like devious and they're like always trying to push the boundary. They're
Highly intelligent.
highly intelligent. Yeah, so that sort of lends them to the fact that is why they can be mages, which are elemental, like you know what a mage, like a magician, and then they can also be warlocks. Those are two things that dwarves cannot be in the beginning of WoW. So not only are they smart when it comes to mechanical, but they are very smart when it comes to magical stuff too. Um, so anyway, go back to Nomergon because we keep getting. Mac. I got to tell you about Nomergon. Everybody's asking about Nomergon.
I'm on gnomes.
Okay, so gnomes. So gnomes always want to push the boundary, whether it comes to engineering or magic. Warlock in the beginning of the game are kind of looked down upon because they're close to necromancy, but they're summoning demons instead of undead. So, right, so that's why gnomes can be warlocks because people actually trust them because they're like, look at this little guy. They're zany. They're not going to do anything wrong. Aha, right. And most gnomes really don't cause a lot of trouble for the rest of the wider world. Like I can't think of a single time where a gnome has like wanted to destroy the whole world. Like they might want to
Even though they probably have the knowledge and technology to do so.
yes, but they have more like petty beef. Like they're like beefing like individually between different gnomes. So they are very mechanical and magical culture, but not at the same time. They're like they can like separate two if that makes sense. So like they're Nomergon before it gets taken over by the Trogs, which it does get taken Trogs. As
Goddamn Trog.
those goddamn Trogs. And so what happens in Nomer is that the Trogs come out. They're like flooding out, flooding out, flooding out. So the second in command, Sirocco Thermoplug, says, "Hey, we should." Yes. Also, sorry, they're like all named like that too. Like all of their names have to do with like,
And I hate
like. Never mind, I hate them. Like even the leader of the gnomes, his name is Mechatork. Yes. So Thermoplug says to Mechatork, "Hey, we just got to gas them. I'm not making that up. I'm not making that up. They they literally say we got to gas the Trogs, and we're just gonna gas them. You know what I mean? Anyway, this is all canon. This is not a commentary about anything else.
I'm not here to say that it's not canon, but the names Geldin Mechatork
Yep.
and
Gelbies.
Psycho?
Sirocco.
How it's spelled.
Sirico. To me, it seemed like he was,
Well, yeah, be silly. Sicco. It's a Sicco. I don't know. Thermoplug.
Yeah.
And this other one is Fimble Fine Spindle.
Yes. Yes. So they all have zany, kooky names.
Hey, shove up yes. Hey, sorry.
Hey, it's me, Tommy Semparelli. Anyway, so they basically gas their whole city. This was a ploy by Thermoplug to get for power, because Thermoplug was going to turn around and tell Mechatork, or he was going to kill Mechatork and then tell everybody that Mechatork gassed the whole city, and then he was the one who stopped it. He was going to become the new king of the gnomes. So when I talk about like personal beef, they like have beefs on a personal.
Yeah.
And the whole reason this started is because it was I know I bring up Amadeus all the time, but it was like a Amadeus. It was like a Mozart Amadeus, or it was a Mozart, whatever the guy in that movie thing was. Thermoplug was jealous of Mechatork because Mechatork was making all this cool shit. So the whole reason that he wants to kind of overthrow the kingdom is just to like dunk on Mechatork. Anyway, so as this is happening, as they're gassing the city, again, not a commentary on anything, just the lore of the game, the gnomes that it affects become what's called leper gnomes. So do you know what leprosy is?
Yeah.
So leper gnomes become green skinned.
No, I'm seeing this.
Yeah, they become green skinned gnomes, and they basically are like crazed, and they're not gnomes, and they're not regular gnomes. Now later in WoW, they find a way to turn leper gnomes into regular gnomes and cure them of the disease. But in the original WoW, they're all stuck as lepers.
So, I'm sorry. Did you say how they became lepers?
Yeah, so when he released the gas, the ones that inhaled the gas turned into leper gnomes. So the whole thing of Gnomeregan is basically it's a problem that the gnomes started, and they were trying to fix. So, so basically, you remember the virus that we can't talk about in real life? Um, it was basically where everybody is like, it happened in this like the narrative of, and this is going up, but the narrative is that like the country in which that it happened, we tried to say, like, they tried to cover it up so the rest of the world wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Same sort of situation. It wasn't until too late that the gnomes like called for help.
Yeah.
And at that point, a large part of their population had become lepers already. Yes.
I just like it's crazy to me that the dwarves get three cool races. Three, right? Iron.
Pretty cool, like clans, yes.
What? Yeah, but also the dark gnomes, whatever they're called.
The dark iron,
Yeah, they look different. They're dark.
right? Darker, yes.
Yeah. But the gnomes get to be gnomes, or they get to have leprosy. That's insane.
Yeah.
You know what?
Well,
I'm sick of it.
like gnomish culture's more based around like individual, where dwarf culture is upon clans of dwarves. You understand the dynamic there, where gnomish it's about the inventor, where with dwarves it's about the dwarven culture.
Yeah.
Understand what I'm saying? So that's the juxtaposition that they're trying to illustrate.
I've also come across two more names that I hate.
Okay, go ahead. Read them off.
Frazzle Spry Sprocket
Okay.
and Ozzy Toggle Volt.
Toggle hole?
Nope, Volt.
Toggle volt. Yes.
Hate it.
So, yes.
So to hell.
Another thing about gnomes that I wanted to bring up is just the fanaticism of gnome players. They are a group of players, of race enjoyers, unlike any of the other ones, besides maybe orcs or trolls. Every gnome that I've played with that is like a gnome, like only plays gnomes. Back in the day, they like used to be the smallest creature, like when you were like fighting. To say that you're like a tauren and then a gnome comes out of nowhere, he's literally like biting at your ankles Like the dynamic of it on the screen is that it's like a terrier attacking like a human.
A chihuahua.
Yes. So that's one thing. Two, Blizzard kind of gave them a really cool racial. So every class or every race in World of Warcraft has different racials. The gnome racial was really good for PvP, so that's content that you're fighting other players, you're not fighting dragons. So they were always the like rogues, which a rogue is like you go invisible. So
Sneaky.
yeah, so I just want to set this image up for it, and you'll understand why people love gnomes. So you're on the horde, you're a torrent, right? Which is the biggest class or the biggest race in the game, right? You're just killing, I don't know, elves or something, right? Out of nowhere, a small little creature arises and is basically just hitting your, but is doing massive damage because Blizzard doesn't matter. They don't care how small it is. It can still do all the spells and everything. So just the mental image of a giant Tauren and then like a gnome trying to attack it. So I always thought that was very ironic from Blizzard is that they wanted to like make that image and they wanted to make sure that gnomes were going into PvP because it was just like a funny, zany. Um, again, we'll go into it. Um, gnomes and dwarves share the starting zones. So
Yep.
so when you start, you're gonna see as a dwarf, you're gonna see other gnome stuff around there and vice versa. In later versions of the game, there's something called Operation Nomergon, and that is, I want to say, 3 or 4 expansions, and the whole city doesn't open up, but part of the city opens up, and that's where you start as a gnome. So as the world goes on, or as the game goes on, we're getting closer to a Nomergon relaunch. But the biggest joke is, and what I didn't explain to you is that Nomergon, the city is in the game as an instance, which is like a dungeon, but it's like a level 35 dungeon. So basically, you free Nomergon at a level 35, and literally nothing happens. There's no lore implications for the whole game. So a big, um, I don't want to say like a big meme in the game is like, when are we gonna have Nomergon? Because it's like we've already saved it thousands of times. Like it should just be like its own city now. So eventually, see it. I think that Blizzard is so far into this point that they're just like, no, you guys are never gonna get. So
We just make this a side segment. I found more. When we started this portion about gnomes, I was like, gnome girl, I love them. But now that I've gotten deeper into the lore, I understand why you don't like them.
okay, why is that?
These are so dumb. First of all, I'd like to meet the person at Blizzard, the people at Blizzard that made these names, and I would like to give them wedgies and swirlies.
Is this gonna be a new segment of the show where I just give you famous or gnome names in the game and just how frustrated they make you?
So we went over the main ones. This is a list of notable gnomes.
Yep, go ahead, read through it.
We got Telzo Sparkspanner, Raslo Crushcog, but then we also got Ganoush.
Noosh.
That's his name. He is a Royal Apothecary Society assistant. Then we move on to, also it feels a little racist to the Italians. Gorenzo.
Yeah,
Rude.
there is like this thing that they try to make gnomes Italian. I've always noticed it. This is not just
Gorenzo Wrench Whistle. Then again, we break off with Gibblewilt. That's his name. That's his whole name. And Haggle. And then we have, how do you say mech-engineer?
mech engineer.
There's no way. That's not how it's spelled.
Mech
Mech-engineer is MEKGIN. Mech.
easy.
Mech-engineer.
Easy there.
Mitzeltweed.
Yep.
Ouch. Steam rigger. I'm reading.
I'm reading it from the book.
Slugger Spaz Ring.
Yep.
And then we got Risa, the leper queen. Bow down. The only known female leper gnome.
Yeah. They don't really go into.
So what is she? She's like Smurfette. She just popped up. Okay. Anyway, and then we have. There's two more. I'm sorry. This guy's got a nickname. Like that makes it better. Tom Sizzlepants Crankle.
Tommy.
And then we have Twizzle Flux the Insane.
Yeah, obviously he's a pretty chill guy.
And then I'm sorry, there was one quote that made me giggle also that said, so we had Forsaken Apothecary Jared says about his assistant apprentice Crispin.
Yeah, I don't even think that's a gnome. I think that's something that's like an imp disguised as a gnome, if I'm remembering that.
He is a Forsaken.
Yes. No. But the gnome that he's referring to. Anyway, go on.
Apprentice Crispin is a leper gnome. I'm literally looking at him right now.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah.
Anyway, he says about him, leper gnome, and he says, sure, he's not been plagued in the same manner as we have, but he's clearly plagued nonetheless. Just crazy to say about your assistant.
Well, undead, and we'll go into this more with the undead episode. They're dead, so they have no feelings.
So he's like, meh.
Yeah. So
He's a little
right. Yeah.
but he's here.
That's like a nice saying. That's like how people in the South say, like, bless your heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it goes on to say this could imply a leper gnome is like an undead plagued, but in a different manner.
Yeah.
Whoa, conspiracy.
They can suggest that. I mean, that doesn't make sure.
So anyway, I just wanted to end my little piece about this section that I actually hate gnomes. And I can't believe that somebody sat down and wrote it. And they were like, and then somebody co-signed it. They were like, you know what? Love it.
Well, I think once you kind of get one or two going.
What do they sound like? Can you give me an accent for them?
Oh, they sound the worst. Like they're how could I do it? I'm trying to think of a like I know the dwarves like keep, but they talk like this. Like it's kind of like a yeah. They like talk in a bad voice. It's not a cool voice. Have a great day now. Up and away. Yeah.
So
they talk like how you think a gnome would talk.
I hate it. But dwarves have like deeper voices, and they're Scottish apparently.
And they're Scottish.
That's crazy. I think that gnomes would have a high pitched voice because they're small, so they have smaller voice boxes.
Yeah.
So a dwarf should have the same pitch.
Because the dwarves are Scottish. Listen,
I'm sorry. You started this. You sat me down. Did you rub my lamp? Did you wake me up? Did you bring me here? You did. So I just, you know what? This is why I don't play as any of these races in any fantasy game, because I can't.
You're just not naturally.
If my choice is tiny, high-pitched, annoying ass.
Whoa, but they're also in the magic and machine.
If my choices are tiny, high-pitched, annoying ass, or sexy elf.
You're picking sexy elf
every time.
That's crazy.
I usually play a wood elf. I like a nice
green. And all right, we're gonna wrap it up here, but let's just go over. So, that's sort of how you feel about gnomes. But what did you really take away from dwarf and gnomish cultures? What maybe questions did you have, or anything like that? To kind of, or how did you want to sum up dwarves and gnomes?
I'm still going to lose sleep over the dwarves versus gnomes versus halflings argument, and I'm going to be doing some deep researching over the next couple of days. Especially because I have D&D tomorrow, so I don't know how far we're going to get with that. I'm going to have to sit down for a while. And then I think I've learned that you're right. I do know more about dwarves than I thought I did, based on Snow White, apparently. I understand that. I do understand more about the difference between the two, at least at this point. I truly could not have told you the difference, and now I can tell you that dwarves are nature-based miners.
I wouldn't say they're nature. They're like mountain.
So,
Because,
question, where are mountains located?
yeah,
Outside in the
when you
nature?
talk about nature magic, you get more into like druids than shamans. So
Anyway, alright, so anyway, they live in the mountains, and they live in the mines, and they are on rocks. And I also learned that gnomes are so obnoxious,
very obnoxious.
and I can't believe I ever tried to peg you peg you? Peg you as a gnome guy. I apologize for that, and I understand why you took offense to that.
Yeah, gnome guys, especially in the universe and like just going on, they're like crypto finance bros. Like that's the best way to explain it. Because that's basically what gnomes are. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But yeah, the main thing I want you to get away.
You have to diversify your folders.
Yeah, yes. The main thing I wanted to go away from Dwarves was just like the setting of Ironforge, which is very important to me, on a personal level, and I think it's one of the best, besides the Undercity, which ironically also underground. I think it's one of the best designed cities in any game ever. Period. Poo. Whatever. And I think dwarven culture is very cool because obviously dwarves are the new punk rock. We've established this. Um, but it was always something very receptive to me for the dwarves as somebody who went to a Votech school in high school because it was like they were like crafters. They were like artisanal people, and it was something that was like very cool to me that was like a core component of their culture. Um, Obviously the beards and the long hair and everything, obviously that was important to me as I grew up. Obviously the drinking was also cool as well. But I just always thought that it was, and the more I learned about dwarves in other fantasy games, the more I got upset because I was like, damn, they stole everything. Like, because that was my first introduction to dwarven culture. So when I played other games, like even like Dragon Quest or whatever, or not Dragon Quest, Dragon 8, and like I saw that that was not something that Blizzard had invented, but something that kind of like widespread. It was a very sour pill for me to digest because I was like, oh, this is important to me and only me and in this setting. So um that was one of the first times that I realized that World of Warcraft borrowed other stuff from other friends. So gnomes are definitely not as bad as you make them out to be. They are definitely very annoying, but that is World of Warcraft, and Warcraft in general has always had like this zany part of it, and that's what like separates it from the rest of like kind of how the zaniness and Pee Wee Herman sets it apart from everything else. That's maybe that's why I feel like dwarves are so 80, even though Pee Wee Herman was like early 90s or whatever. But it was very much this Pee Wee Herman element of the game. Um, and that's what the gnomes were. And like I said, I always do appreciate people who are, as much as I'm like, I'm a dwarf main, I'm a dwarf main. Like I say that shit. Like if you read the comments on the shorts, I say that shit all the time, and I mean it. I believe it. I stand by that. But gnome players are also like that, and I always appreciate because it was like you're gonna take the zany part of this fantasy verse, and like I appreciate. So, um, anything else you want to end up with?
No,
Wrap up?
I just wanted to say that I think you said something that made sense to me. Dwarves are kind of the DIY. Gnomes, not that they're not DIYing, but gnomes are a little more like, "I'm gonna DIY it, but I'm gonna make the machine to DIY it for me."
Yes.
Whereas dwarves are like, "No, I'm gonna cut the rock, I'm gonna shape the gem, I'm gonna forge the ring," whatever.
Right. Yeah. Dwarves, like dwarven artisanal, like goods are like very sought out in the whole kingdom. You know what I mean? Like traditionally, if you're going to have a hammer made for you or like a weapon made for you, you want it made by, you wouldn't go to a gnome to make that. But if you wanted some flying machine or some sort of teleporter or some shit that you couldn't even fathom, you would go to a gnome.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference between their culture. That's actually a very good, a very apt comparison.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's all I had.
Well, guys, this is coming to the end per the usual. I just wanted to thank everybody for their time. I know that there are billions and billions. Sorry, let me not burp. Wow. Anyway, I know there are billions and billions of videos out there that you guys could watch specifically about World of Warcraft. But the fact that you're sitting here and hearing me explain and spending time with us is always very important to me. Like I said, and I'll just go over it. The next couple videos, the next one for sure is going to be Orcs and Trolls. We're going to go over their starting zone, like I went over the starting zone here, and then we'll kind of flip flop from there. So stay tuned for that. But like I said, I just wanted to thank everybody for stopping by and listening to the pod. And, for the people who do have played the game, they're probably like, why aren't you progressing faster? Why aren't you going into why the Dark Iron Dwarves are summoning Ragnarok? And why aren't you talking about Upper Blackrock Spire and stuff? And it's like more in time. We'll go into that. But what I want to do is just like set up the foundation. So when we do kind of the big synopsis of what happens in World of Warcraft, she is more like familiar with the archetypes of races, stuff like that. So besides that, that's it. Thank you again for watching. Happy questing out there, happy exploring, happy adventuring. This is being recorded the week that World of Warcraft put out the Midnight trailer, which is going to be the next expansion in the game. So, in like 4 years, we'll talk about that because I'm not going to try to explain what Midnight is. But yeah, so thanks everybody for watching. Really appreciate the watch, and we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.